All right, welcome to A Friday Reads, where we talk about what I read, what I'm reading, what I hope to get to next, and July is hitting. July is doing great things. I'm just enjoying the momentum of my reading right now. I mean, I'm having some really great books that make me want to read. Not everything's a hit, but like, at least we're having some high highs, and that's just what I've been missing lately, is I really want to be reading, and part of that is I put two of my favorite books of all time on my reread plans for this month. So that's on me for, stacking the deck a little bit. But still, whatever works, right? And so we'll talk about what I finished. I finished 4 things since we last chatted. 2 of them were holdovers. And then I'm in the middle of a lot of things. One of them's for work, so does it count? I don't know. But let's get into it, starting with Chaos Vector. I think that's the first one I finished that I talked about last week. This is the sequel to Velocity Weapon, and it is very fun. Continues to just be a really fun adventure, space opera time. I went to a conference last week, and I had lunch by myself because I just didn't know anybody, and my coworker was doing some event thing. And so when I went to lunch, I just had my Kindle out and read, because it felt weird to watch a video, but reading a book felt fine. And it was very soothing, and that was an odd but cool experience. I almost felt like Ellen from Mistborn. I don't know. But at that moment, I was so annoyed that I had to go back to the conference, and I couldn't finish the book because things were just ramping up. I need to get to the 3rd book. It's just such a plot-driven time with a good enough building of characters and world that you're invested in the situation. But it's way more plot-driven than I am normally drawn to, especially for how thick the books are. But I'm here for it, and I bet a lot of it is because the main character is a very competent character, and she is so good at what she does, and I love her snark, and I love how she handles situations, and I'm a sucker for that. And the cast of characters has grown, and a character perspective that I didn't really like from the first book, I now really understand why it had to be there for how things happened, so I feel less retroactively annoyed, but also how we handled that character arc this book was very interesting. So, excited to get to the 3rd book. Also, the buddy read is really fun in the Discord. Someone's finishing it up currently, and the gifs they're using. Because it's just one of those series where you're just what? That just happened? Why? All the time. It's very fun. It's just one of those things. So if you want a mid-weight page-turner read for your summertime, I highly recommend the space opera series. Even if you don't normally read it, I think it's actually a pretty good entry point for people because it doesn't use a lot of terminology that a lot of space opera assumes you know. So I think it's actually a pretty good entry level of well, you understand the concept of spaceships and maybe intergalactic travel through gates. Because I remember when I first started reading space opera and sci-fi, there would be a lot of terms that were used that are just become part of the jargon of sci-fi that I was just unaware of. So it was learning a new language. And I don't think, well, I say this now as a seasoned sci-fi reader, but I really don't think that is as strongly here. So I think it's also potentially a very good entry point for people who, maybe you want to read something that's just a fun Star Trek / Star Wars type time, The next one we'll talk about is another space opera, but the opposite side of the spectrum in terms of levity, and that is Dark Age. It's a sad book. It's a sad book. It's just so, I know it's in the title, but honestly, you get to the 5th book in this series, and tonally speaking, we have not been playing this dark, And I mean, I think it's better now that I was prepared for it. I do think I liked it a little bit more than when I first read it, but that said, I still gave it about the same rating. I went into my story graph, and I think when I rated it before, you can't get half stars on Goodreads, so I gave it a 3, so it was a 3.5 rounded down to a 3, which is about what I'd give it now, although back then my rating scale was way more skewed, so a 3.5 is a little harsher back when I rated it then. But yeah, I just think it's a little dark for me. I don't think it helps that there are some sections that really focus on things I don't care about, and there's not so there's multiple point of view books where every 2 or 3 chapters you hop to a new perspective and you're in a new place. So if there's a part of the plot you're not as into, you get to jump around a bit more. This is a multi-POV book where it's oh no, once I'm in this part of the plot, if I don't like this stuff, I'm just stuck here for a couple hundred pages. I mean, that's how the book opens. I don't care about what's happening on Mercury. Ever. Now, that's all I'm going to say about it, but a large portion of this book cares a lot about what's happening on Mercury, and I maybe I should care, but I don't. But I really don't. I care a lot about the stuff that happens on Mars and Loons, and that's not our focus for a lot of the book, but when it is our focus, I'm having a great time. And although I reread books all the time, I never get to reread a book like it's my first time. I have a pretty strong memory Like, even, I think there was one other time where I reread some books and I truly forgot stuff. Maybe it was like my second time reading Well of Ascension. I forgot some twists in there. But this time, even though I've been rereading All Red Rising, Dark Age was the one I had read most recently. And I could remember things from Red Rising, Morning Star, Iron Gold. Like, there were moments where I'm like, yeah, I remember these big plot moments. I forgot nearly all of the big plot moments of Dark Age. Like, all of them. Which kind of makes sense, too, because retroactively, I thought I gave this book, like, 2 stars, and apparently I gave it 3.5, because this book really soured on me after my first read. This time, I think I understood what it was trying to do. I'm excited because I have the next book, because I do think it's a book that if you finish it and you don't have another book, there is very little catharsis. Like, extreme, like, I guess we end some plot arcs, but, there's... You're ending, it's a bottom of a trough, okay? Like, it's not very up, which I know is in the title, but if you've read other Red Rising books, I do think it's a really big departure. I mean, yes, Iron Gold, you definitely see we're going into things more in depth, but it definitely doesn't feel as dire, as dark, as grim. And this one, it's like, okay. We're really just gonna kick people while they're down, aren't we? All right. There's like one moment of maybe sort of bitter success, maybe, and the rest is just all like excruciating sadness. Like, ooh. But I do believe the live show for that is going to be this Sunday on Leanna's channel, and once I have a link, I will share it with you guys. If I have the link, it's down below. If not, keep an eye on the community tabs for Alex, Leanna, and I. But I finished Dark Age, and I finished Chaos Vector, and then I'm like, I need a short book, and my weekend was really busy. If you're one of my patrons, I have my weekend vlog of reading this book, because I was cat-sitting, and all I did was read this book, and that's The Best of All Possible Worlds, and this is the new cover, and I love it so much, and I read it in an entire weekend, and read the 2 new short stories, and I loved it, like I do every time. And I think maybe I can describe a bit better why I really love this book, because it wasn't like, just a one-time thing. And I think part of it is that for me, it's like the perfect therapy session for me and my issues and how I want them approached, paired with a really fun exploration of a world and an imagined world where society is more helpful than harmful. Like, there is still harm. It's not a utopia sort of thing. I mean, heck, it's so much of a not of utopia that we have a whole civilization needing to resettle themselves because of genocide, right? Like, it's not a perfect universe, but we're choosing to focus on a place that is trying to help a culture find a new home and not just try to like make it blend with them, just being respectful of their cultures and also demanding respect in return. And we get to follow this team of people who also have all different backgrounds and experiences. And I like the episodic nature. And between our 2 main characters, Delanok and Grace, and their issues, and getting to unpack and explore their issues and their teamwork over the course of a year, it's just one of my favorite things. And it really resonates with me. I think in a way that a lot of people find other social sci-fi like Becky Chambers to resonate with them. It's just like, for some reason, the way Becky Chambers does it, I'm not resonating as much, so it doesn't hit for me. It just feels more like preaching. Whereas here, it doesn't feel like preaching. I'm just like, yeah, I feel that. I really feel seen by that sentence. And so that's very personal. Whenever someone picks up this book, if they don't love it as much as me, I totally get it. But for me, the sass, the hiding in the sass that Grace does in her narration of this story, and Delanok's work at that, and how he hides in his work, it's just, ooh. And like I said, the slow burn connection that they form, one of my favorites of all time. So yeah, if you're a patron, I have that spoiler vlog up. I literally talk about every single chapter, because it was one of those things where after every chapter I had something to say, which is when I always know I'm reading a favorite book, and it's the best feeling, and the short stories are really fun. I think they really only matter if you're very invested, and I was very invested in one of the characters, and I'm hoping I get another story with that character in another short story, because they're brought up in Galaxy Game, and I'm nervous. Anyways, only I care. Truly, I think only I care about this one character, but I need to know. So I'm hoping either in Blue Beautiful World or another short story, I will get some answers. And then the last book I finished, this is the one that I was least excited about, but it was like the only audiobook I had, and I had a lot of audiobook time, oddly enough. Although, my Smallville, Talkville podcast has started again, so I'm sure the time just went away. But this is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. And when will I personally stop reading Sylvia Moreno Garcia? Because I think the work that worked best for me, that I had most fun with, was Certain Dark Things. That one was a solid 4-star experience, and that was the one that made me think maybe I'll just do audiobook for Sylvia Moreno Garcia. And this one I did audiobook, and the narrator is fine. I tried this, actually. I tried reading this, I think, last fall. I read, like, a chapter, and I was like, I'm not feeling this right now, and I never picked it up again. But it was shortlisted for the Hugo, so I'm like, I'll pick it up. I'll see what the fuss is about. It's fine. It's fine. I feel like I've read books that handle this type of stuff in a more interesting way to me. The thing that it does differently, the thing that I like about a lot of her works that she does differently is centering it in a time and a place that we don't normally center our speculative fiction. So centering it at late 1800s in Yucatan, Mexico is interesting. I think that is something new to this story, maybe, but like the idea of looking at these hybrids and what is human. Those types of questions, and then looking at this particular coming-of-age story of someone wasn't, like, my favorite. And, like, although I liked the two perspectives. You have two perspectives. You have Carlotta, and then you have, the Major Domo. I'm forgetting his name because, yeah, it was just a fine book. And although, like, I liked them both, I didn't like what he was thinking about her because he was 15 years older and, like, met her as a kid, and that just felt weird. And I, like, know that's a thing of the time, historical fiction, and honestly, all things considered, it honestly didn't go that poorly in that respect, but it was something that was always souring my interactions with being in his perspective. Which, like, I actually don't think it was handled wrong or anything like that. It's just not something I wanted. Like, so in addition to being fine about the project but not excited, there were actively elements that I'm like, man, I don't need this here. It's not bad. It's not even being handled disrespectfully. I just don't love it. So yeah, it was fine. It's a fine book, and I guess technically is science fiction. So yeah, that's, and so this kind of leads into my currently reads. I'm very uninspired by this Hugo shortlist. If you haven't seen my Hugo reaction video, I'm just so unenthused, uninspired. I'm bored with it. I don't think they're bad, but I think they're all really easy. Like, I don't think anyone who is not a large enough people nominating for the Hugos decided to push themselves in any meaningful way. These are all very easy, consumable books. And I just wasn't feeling that for my award reading. And so I decided to go look at the Ursula K. Le Guin shortlist. This is the second year we have that award. And take some of those out from the library. And I'm reading one right now called Wolfish, and it's a delight. I am really liking this. This is a middle grade book. And I'm only like 35% of the way in. It's very pretty. I saw it in person at the bookstore, and like I almost bought it. But like realistically, I don't know if I'll ever reread it again. And like it's a weird height because it's a middle grade hardback, and I don't have a lot of space. So I'm trying to be very particular about when I buy books right now because of space. But anyways, Wolfish, it's perfect for me because like it reminds me like when I was a middle grader and I would go to the library and I'd get, my summer readings to like do the bingo, and it's just this like whimsical fairy tale book. But at the same time, its writing is stunning. It I think would have been a little challenging for me as a middle grader because there are a lot of words for certain like places and things that even now as an adult I'm looking up. They're not like hard words, they're just words I don't know. But it's about prophecy and destiny and nature and nurture, and it's very beautiful and folklorish fairy tale, and I'm vibing hard. It's a really cool time. So I've been reading that, really enjoying it. For work, I wanted to read this book called Small Teaching. I've only read the introduction for this, but I want to get the audiobook for this because I need an audiobook, and I don't have one. And this is about like, it's kind of like in the introduction, it was talking about a metaphor for in baseball, there's small baseball, like little things you can do to consistently win where you don't need to have these big hitters. So the idea being, okay, here are some things you can implement in the classroom that don't require you to necessarily change your whole curriculum from the ground up, but you can get beneficial results for yourself and your students right now. And I'm very interested in that and seeing what I think. And he has another book called Distracted, which is about, students being distracted in the classroom and why they're being distracted, and I think maybe how to mitigate that. So I'm interested in it. It was recommended to me when I went to the conference, and like I'm obsessed with education theory. So those are things that nonfiction wise I'm kind of reading. And then I have two more books I'm in the middle of because I cannot be stopped. I've been reading Yumi and the Night Painter, which is the new Sanderson book that is out. And this one's been fun. It took me a while to to grow on me. Because there's two characters, Yumi and Night Painter. And Night Painter, Sanderson sometimes likes to write this character that thinks he's an edgelord that's not an edgelord. It's a character he writes fairly often, and I normally don't like reading these perspectives that he writes. But in this case, he's slowly growing on me, and I think is paired well with Yumi, and paired well with the situations they're being put in. And so I think that in that way, a thing that was bothering me, it's been growing on me, and I'm really liking the world building. It reminds me so much of when I'm like just discovering a new Sanderson world and be like, why is things happening? This is so weird. Like, it's just reminding me of why I like exploring new Sanderson worlds and things like that. And it reminds me a lot of reading Warbreaker. I don't know necessarily if you like Warbreaker you would like this or vice versa, but for me, Warbreaker is always a summer book, and I didn't get to read it this summer because life got busy. And, I mean, I was supposed to read it for Roger's live show, for his Cosmere read-along. We still had a great discussion about it. I still remembered enough because I've read Warbreaker like 3 or 4 times. But I like reading it in the summer. It's just like a whimsical's not the right word, but it feels vibrant, it feels colorful, it feels like summer. And I'm getting those same vibes from this book, so that's really nice just because I didn't get to have that experience, so I'm having these like summer memories of reading this. I don't know where it's going. I wasn't expecting the framing device or what we're dealing with. I'll be vague because I truly wasn't expecting it. But I'm liking it, and there's also themes that make me reminded of Warbreaker too. Sanderson really likes to look into certain parts of religion and the truths that are hidden and revealed about religion, and that's definitely coming through here a little bit. But again, I wouldn't go to any Sanderson work for its themes. I just think they kind of get touched upon. I'm mostly here because I think the characters are pretty fun and the world's really cool to explore, and I guess I want to see how they get themselves out of this mess they're in, because they're in a mess. Like, there's also some commentary about automation, which is interesting, that has only been sort of touched on so far in Mistborn Era 2. So, and that's the thing too, is like we have like a techier side and a non-techier side, and like that's fun seeing the magic being used with tech, which I know it does feel a little bit more like part of the world, like a cyberpunk sci-fi world. Which again, why am I comparing this to Warbreaker, which is not like that at all? Who knows, but having a good time. And then I was going to have this be my audiobook, but I don't think I'll be able to. Or maybe I will, maybe I won't. I have the audiobook so I can lean on it when I want, but like then I started physically reading it, and I was having too much fun, and that's The Mask of Mirrors. I love this book so much. It's truly a favorite of all time. Like, I can't. So the 3rd book comes out soon, and I wanted to do a reread, and I was worried I wouldn't have time for a reread, and I've just kind of had this book sitting around looking at me, being like, you should pick me up. And I've been working on this baby blanket, so I'm like, well, I have this and The Liar's Not an audio. I can listen to them while I work on the baby blanket, and I can physically read Labyrinths. And like, I like the narrator. I think she does really cool accents that I didn't even think to do for different cultures and things like that. But I just don't think the Vargo or the Grey accents are good enough for me. I need Vargo to be a certain way, and I'm just gonna have to let that be me. Like, I like how she does Renetta. I think that's great, and I like the voice for Ren, which are the same character, but she's a con woman. She has her accent, and then she acts the accent for the con, and then the accent for the other con. She's great. I feel like if you are here, you know what The Mask of Mirrors is about, but just know that if we have any overlap in fantasy taste, you should at least try it out. And I do always say that for the most part, I can tell if someone's going to really love this book or just be okay with this book or not vibe with it by the end of chapter 3. I don't know why, but it feels like a good litmus test. Like, it's not like a huge thing happens in chapter 3, but I mean, I'm sold from the get-go. Like, I'm in chapter 2, and I'm just like, oh, I missed being here. This is lovely. These people, this place, the characters. I really like the storytelling of it all. It's truly a favorite of mine. And then chapter 3 just is like icing on the cake of like, and yes, 100% in. So, you know, considering these books are large, I think all of them are 600 to 700 pages. And like I said, the narrator is really good. So if you maybe aren't as passionately connected, I do recommend that route. But maybe have a physical or ebook copy nearby because of all the names. Because it is like fantasy book syndrome of countries and cities and people, and I'm used to it now because it's my 3rd time reading it, but I think it could be a bit much. So, those are all the things I'm in the middle of. Do I know what I'm going to read next? Nope. Nope, I don't. Nope. We're just going to have to find out next week. Actually, do I even have a Friday Reads going up next week? I don't think I do, actually. So you'll find out everything else I've read for the month in the wrap-up, because I believe next week I will have like a goals check-in, and I'll do the Ignite Awards reaction, and then the following week will be a TBR, and a wrap up, because I think that's how it works with my vacation schedule. And also, just like, I think next week it would just be like the Friday right before the TBR, and it's like, and right before the wrap up, it's like, I don't know if it's that useful. And when I go on my camping trip, am I going to read that much? Probably not. So you'll have to wait for the wrap up to figure out my thoughts on all the things I'm in the middle of and what I do finish this month with, because I have some reading momentum right now, and we'll see if I can keep that up. I have no idea what's going to happen. And I do think I've read most of my required reading on the TBR, which does feel good, Let me know what you're reading, doing, watching. If you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here. I don't know. I've read so many good books. Let's do a wolf for a wolfish. I think that'd be cute. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.